Kenzie with the Whole Woman, and welcome to this week's episode of Living Life Authentically with yours truly. So, you may have missed the first part where I said, "Hey, everybody," because I jumped the gun today. It's Monday. Yeah, it's Monday like a firestorm. I hope you've had a great weekend. I hope your spring is off to a good start, or not quite spring, but we're getting there. My mascara thought it was spring this morning, but that's okay. It's Monday, and we are 1 week away from Women Honoring Women in the World of the Whole Woman. So we hope you'll join us on Sunday at the Capitol Grill. But in the meantime, this week's episode is being brought to you live in partnership with Diageo North America. Drink responsibly. So we're so excited for that partnership. Thank you, Diageo North America, and much more to come. Quick tidbit of news before we jump into our guest today. But how about Gambia? You know, that country on West Africa, just a little bit south of Senegal, used to be called Senegambia when it was all still colonized. Well, today they decided to actually enforce banning of female genital mutilation. So FGM is now officially banned and being enforced in Senegambia. And you may recall that we were all involved with what's happening there with fistula, with FGM a few years ago. We still care. We still pay attention. So congratulations to Gambia. Welcome to the 21st century. And you were watching Living Life Authentically. I'm Natalie B. McKenzie, your host. And today we have another amazing guest for you. And she, my dear friends, is a phenomenal woman that I had the pleasure of meeting a few weeks ago, maybe about a month or two ago. But more importantly, she is someone who has forged a career in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and or we'd say inclusion and diversity in some places. And I really kind of like that. Very much a Renaissance woman. I can't wait to introduce you to her. She formerly was with Flatiron. She currently is with Diageo North America, and she is the head of VP. I'm sorry, she's the VP and inclusion. Okay, Natalie, I'm going to get it together. Our guest today is Vice President of Inclusion and Diversity for Diageo North America. Later, I'll tell you why I'm so scrambled today, but that's all right. Our guest today is none other than Chante Butler. I'd like to welcome her.
Thank you, Natalie. I just want to give you some love. You have it all together. So,
So, as we're getting ready for the show, we always, get together backstage at about 5:45.
yeah.
So before you got on, it was 5:30, and I was getting myself together, and I have this whole list of things I'm going to do in preparation for the show, and I'm looking at my clock, and it's 5:30, and it's 5:40, and all this is happening, and it's not registering that it's 5:45.
Yes. I think you
And
and
this
I are in
might
the same
get
boat.
started. And then I realized the reason I really didn't believe it's 5:45, it's light outside. It's springtime. Yay.
Love that.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So enough about me. I am so excited that you were able to join us. Let's talk a little bit about Chante Butler. And at a time when there is such an onslaught and an effort, a concerted effort to dilute, water down, or just plain old delete any movement in the space of diversity inclusion. I can't wait to hear about what you're experiencing in that space. But before we talk about that, tell us a little bit about Chante. Before you got to the accolades and the titles, where did you grow up? And tell us a little bit about your family dynamics.
Wonderful. Nice to be here with you, Natalie. It truly is an honor. I hope we get into how we initially met and some of the things we've already done together and the many more things we'll do together. So, thank you for having me today. So, I grew up in West Bloomfield, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. My sister and I, it's just the two of us with my parents, but we have a very large extended family. between aunts, uncles, great uncles, lots of cousins on both sides of my family. My parents are originally from the South, so my dad's from Tennessee and my mom's from Kentucky. So we very much grew up with deep Southern roots in us and all that comes along with that and family. You know, my dad went to Tennessee State University, was
Hmm.
there, yeah, when John Lewis was doing the sit ins, and actually one of my great aunts worked and was his secretary, which is a really rich history. And my dad was part of marches and sit ins, and my
Wait
mom
a minute. Wait a
integrated.
minute. What year did your dad graduate from TSU?
I know.
How did we not talk about this?
I talked with your husband about this. And yes, so yes, yes, yes. And then my mom went to Kentucky State. So both my parents are HBCU grads. And my mom actually integrated a school in Shelbyville, Kentucky. So
Oh,
very exciting. And, you know, the history and legacy that my parents instilled in my sister and I is very close to my heart. And we live that and honor that every day.
wow.
So I have an older sister. I was telling Deidre earlier, my dad wanted a doctor and a lawyer when my sister and I were growing up. My sister is a lawyer. I am not a doctor, but I did start my career early in science and technology.
Fabulous. So a little bit of a STEM background there for you.
Yes, very much so.
So you moved from the Midwest. Where did you end up going to college?
I went to school in Michigan, so at Wayne State University.
Oh, okay.
My sister and I both were born in Dayton, Ohio. My dad was in the automotive industry, and so we left Dayton when I was in kindergarten, going into first grade, I think. And then we moved to Pennsylvania. We did 2 years in Pennsylvania, then moved to Michigan, did 2 years. No, I'm sorry. We're from Ohio. We went to Michigan, did 2 years, then went to Pennsylvania, did 2 years, and then came back to Michigan, which is where I grew up in West Winfield, Michigan.
So you
My
actually
dad
went to
finished.
high school in Michigan.
Correct.
Tell us about living in Michigan and growing up with, oh boy, two very, let's say, socially active parents.
Yeah. You know, I adore and love my parents, and I think my sister and I were so blessed and lucky to have them and the values and what they instilled in us. My mom was a social worker, and my dad was an engineer. So we had both the very corporate um, parenting experience and very much corporate and also social responsibility in the work that she did, that my mom did. And so I think those two things have stuck with my sister and I. We think about our careers and the roles that we've had, what we've done, and how we've moved in our career. And I will say, we grew up in a very diverse community. While we were very few Black family and Black kids at the schools I went to in Michigan, it was still a very much diverse community. A large Middle Eastern community, a large Jewish community, large Indian, Asian community. Given that we were outside of Detroit and automotive and technology and industry there. So I'm really thankful for that, um, the experience and cultures and different cultures that I learned about. That was really instilled in me at a younger age. And I definitely think it was the base that kind of set me on this, ended up being my career of inclusion and diversity.
That's awesome. What was it like in high school having such a melting pot of cultures and a variety of people? That must have been quite interesting.
It was, I think you appreciate it more as you get older, obviously, but I learned so much just about one, what it feels like when you really want to belong, right? Because as wonderful it was, there were definitely challenging moments being one of few Black kids in your high school or middle school, elementary. But it also, there were so many beautiful moments of learning and acceptance that I had as well. But for me, it was what you wanted childhood, the access to all these various opportunities and the ability to dream and to know that I could do anything that I wanted to, and have not only my parents support me in that, but having a community of teachers that supported me, neighbors that didn't necessarily look like me, but also were very supportive that we talk to still to this day, that have a vested interest in what my sister and I are doing, and vice versa with their kids and family. So for me, it was not perfect, but it was just what I would think you want for kids, and just having a supportive environment and just this ability really to dream and understand that anything is possible.
I think that's so exciting. What were you like in high school? What were your interests? Were you a bookworm? Were you athletic? Were you more on the creative side? And how did you and
I
your
was on the
sister?
social side. so, um, I was really into cheerleading. Like that was like my thing. So I was really big into cheerleading. I was saying I ran track my freshman year and sophomore year. Like I lettered in track, and then I gave up track and did cheerleading full time. By no means was I like the best runner, but if I had stayed with it, I could have been pretty good. But I was very social, so very much a cheerleader and social. Um, I was very involved in our church youth group, so I did a lot of work there and volunteering work. Like I said, my mom was a social work, so we did a lot of volunteering work with her at Big Brothers Big Sisters. If you know anything about Big Brothers Big Sisters, their annual fundraiser is bowling.
Mhm.
So I remember the many of nights my sister and I would go with my mom and getting folks to sign up and bowling and supporting the organization. So those are some of my interests when I was younger,
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your athletic abilities and where
or
that came
lack
from
of right now.
and the influences in your family around that.
Yeah, so I was saying that when I talk about running track, I like to tease that it's like in my blood. But one of my Edwin Moses is my cousin and the famous 400-meter hurdle Olympian. And so he's from Dayton, Ohio. We grew up watching him running around the world. My Aunt Gladys and Uncle Irving, his parents, they were my mom. Aunt Gladys was my mom's aunt, so my grandmother's sister.
Oh, fabulous. So if you
Yeah,
had just worked at it, you too could have been an Olympian.
that's what I like to tell myself. But the amount when I talk to him now and hear the sacrifices he made, the work you put in, I was never going to be an Olympian. I'm just keeping that real. But maybe I could have done well in high school. Gone to a small school with a scholarship or something like that.
Well, speaking of going off to school with a scholarship, would you end up going to school in Michigan, you said?
I went to Wayne State University. I started out at Michigan, like University of Michigan, for 2 years and finished at Wayne State.
And what were your interests? What is your area of study?
So STEM. So I was a biology major. So while I didn't go to medical school, I definitely stuck with science, and science definitely still interests me today. I'm very much on wanting to understand processes, which I think just comes from studying science and how things work and those type of things. Um, I also really loved French.
Mm.
So I did and studied French. I definitely didn't minor in it, but I really had a passion for all things French, still do. Um, and I was into research. So I was lucky at Wayne State. I got connected to Dr. Thomas, like one of the very few Black professors I had, in particular in science. And so he was a PhD at Wayne State, and I was working in his lab. And it was really fascinating that I think that helped spur that science interest, and also helped confirm I didn't want to be a doctor, but I wanted to stay in science. And I was doing some HIV research that they were doing um, there at Wayne State. And so, really excited by that, and still love research.
That's pretty exciting. So you end up with a major in biology, but you're doing something a little different today. Help
Yes.
with that transition. So when you graduated college, how did your career take off and how did you end up doing,
Yeah.
HR, diversity, inclusion?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a very traditional route. I definitely think I had someone say to me a long time ago, proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Mhm.
So it definitely is being prepared for anything. So when I finished school, I still was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So I started working for a healthcare, a pharmaceutical company in Michigan. And I was young. And so I was there probably for like a year and a half. And then I saw that they hired consultants. And so I was like, oh, I could start my own consulting company. There were some other young women there. And in my mind, I just thought it was such a powerful statement to have these young women doing these, engineering and science consulting in the pharmaceutical industry. And we had very different science backgrounds. One was a biomedical engineer, one was chemistry, one was microbiology, I was biology, one was chemical engineering. And then um, we were all around the same age, and then we were all different women, women, different races and ethnicity. And so I thought this was such a powerful statement. These young women, all these different science disciplines, different race, ethnicity, could do this consulting company. The pharmaceutical industry at that time, they were hiring a lot of consultants, but were doing validation, so developing, improving methods in the laboratory and in manufacturing. I talked to um, the engineering manager, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking of forming my own company. Would you hire, me? And he's like, yes. And so as I got closer to doing it, the other women, backed out for various reasons, right? Made the best decision for themselves. I continued on with it. So the concept of just like inclusion and acceptance has always been weaved in a common thread through everything that I've done, and always in the forefront. And so starting my own company really helped me have all these various experiences and meeting people. And from there, I just started traveling and doing different projects. And then I did that probably for like 15, 16 years.
Oh.
Then it reached a point of, okay, am I really going to grow this? Right. I was partnering with other small companies and doing long project work, but am I really going to grow this, or do I really want to go and try have like a more corporate experience? And so that's when I joined Deloitte. And I was in their advisory practice and started still working in pharmaceutical industry, but doing more strategy and large scale technology implementation and managing projects. And from Deloitte, I went to Accenture, more technology driven projects. And then I reached a point of, with consulting, it's a different path and way and a lot of travel. And I was just at a point in my life where I didn't want so much travel.
Mhm.
And I joined a tech company in New York City, leading and helping to stand up their quality organization. And as I was in tech, I just got really involved within Flatiron, and they were really supportive and inquisitive and all the things that you would want in a company as you begin to explore other options. And I think what really motivated me was being in a tech company and seeing what it was really like and how we could work together to kind of change what, I saw as how we could be more inclusive, how we could be more diverse. And it really just started with me like, I just wanted people to know that there are women of color that are in tech, that are in science, that we are here. We're part of this story too. And that's how, I kind of got into leading inclusion and diversity.
And so you transitioned from entrepreneur to intrapreneur and then
Yeah,
carved out your own niche. And here you are in the DEI space. Let's
yes,
talk a little bit about this inclusion, diversity, and equity push or elimination, as we would see coming from some of the courts and in different states, eliminating the need for these departments. How how are you responding as an individual? But how do you see corporations responding to it, without, of course, trying to speak for a company that you're not with, or for any company
yeah,
for that matter? But your personal take on how do you see us responding, especially here on the East Coast where it's DEI friendly?
yes. Well, I think certainly I'm not speaking for all companies, but what I will say is, in this space and networking, there is a lot of conversation, and there's also a lot of sharing and coming together of how can we work together to change the conversation and shift the conversation back to where it needs to be. And I see that in many different organizations and many different networks that I am of this coming together, addressing things head on, figuring out what have you all done, how are you responding to this, and really sharing information, which is really, really wonderful to see and really encouraging to know like we are in this fight together. And even if we are competitors in the space, we have a common goal to work together, which is why I'm so excited and honored to have joined Diageo. We're a company that is not backing away from our commitments, and really being in the front and being able to um, be fearless in our approach. Right, we understand our market, our business, right, is a multicultural, and it's about a multicultural consumer. And so, as a business, and any business, in particular in the U.S., you have to have that as part of your business. So I'm really proud that we stand on that and we continue, to move in that space and move forward. As you know, in some of the partnerships and things that we've done together.
Speaking of what we have done together, let's talk a little bit about what we are doing together and
Yeah,
how we met and
yes.
what is the goal? What's the ultimate end game? What is it you believe that Diageo wants the message to be?
I
And
think we wanted to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, please.
No, I think it is living our mission, right? Celebrating life every day, everywhere, for everyone, right? This that in and of itself is inclusive. So how do we truly live our mission in everything that we do? So that's externally, internally, that this is for everyone. And our company, our culture, our celebration, our access and openness to opportunities is truly for everyone. And it's what our mission says. And how do we do that in a way that is respectful, mindful, honoring, and authentic to the many, many, many consumers that we have?
And what is it? Anything special happening in Diageo as we celebrate Women's History Month?
Yeah, I will say our Spirited Women's Network has put together a month long of wonderful, wonderful events. Last week we had a panel with various women founders speaking to our employees. We're doing another panel in partnership with Women of the Vine and Spirits that is focusing on the investment side of the spirits industry. So it's a panel all about investing in private equity. So really excited about that. We're doing a lot of community building within our own company through our BRGs. Our BRGs, our business resource groups, are a very integral part of what we do from a community inclusion diversity perspective at Diageo, and we're really proud of them and the work that they do. And one, being such wonderful brand ambassadors for Diageo, but two, and what they do in support and community building for our own employees, in addition to the many consumers that we have.
That's fabulous. And I remember last year you did something quite unique, and you may have done it before, where you took the Johnny Walker Black and made it Jane Walker. Is she available this year again?
It's so interesting that you just asked that because our Spirited Women's Network, we're just doing the Jane Walker Award. So during Women's History Month, we'll have internal nominees that embody the spirit of Jane Walker. So we're really excited about that to
That's
continue that.
that
Yes.
I thought that was one of the coolest things
Yeah.
that you guys did. And I saw you also had special flavors of Baileys that I thought were quite girl appealing, tilted, skewed more to women. Baileys tends to be a drink for females anyway, I think. But I thought it was really special. You all brought out for our event that we did in over the winter, our retreat, the strawberry flavor, and that was a hit.
Yeah.
That
You
one,
know, We have so many brands and so many flavors. So as you know, I've only been at the company for 4.5 months. So even I'm still learning about all the different brands that we have and flavors. And it truly is amazing the breadth and depth that we have as a company. And it's really, I'm proud that there's, something there for everyone. We have many, as you know, that we had at the retreat, non-alcoholic spirits.
Yep.
So very excited to continue to share those with our consumers as well.
So let me ask you this. After 15 years of being an entrepreneur, and we're about to run out of time, so I really want to get this in, but after 15 years of being an entrepreneur and then being an entrepreneur, um, tell me, are you involved in anything else, or are you just staying in your lane in corporate America, or is that little bug still going?
I definitely have interests outside, but right now I'm super focused on learning Diageo, learning the spirits industry. As I said, I came from technology, which is totally different industry and culture than spirits. So I'm spending a lot of time and really finding that enjoyable and exciting to learn about this industry and the many suppliers and distributors and partners that we have.
That's exciting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking with Chante Butler. Nothing like chatting with a woman who is an entrepreneur and flipping to an entrepreneur and still exercising her entrepreneurial abilities. I really wanted to hear what was happening in the DEI space because every time I read about another strike down in another state, I get a little miffed, if I may say so
Yeah.
myself. So it's just quite interesting. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for chatting with us. I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well, talk soon. And we just wish you absolute success with everything that you do.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you to the whole woman. It really is an honor and pleasure to be here with you all today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Chante Butler, Vice President of Diversity Inclusion at Diageo North America. Here in the whole woman world, we are still talking about Lady Mist. You may remember that our full collection of hand sanitizer partnered with Shoe Cosmetics, our candles partnered with home sense and school sense, excuse me, and our body butter with Mama Cedar buttercream. Um, our fragrance is the Lady Mist. It was created for us by Tiffany Rose over at School Sense. And as you know, Shawanda Vickers over at Shoe Cosmetics is one of our honorees this weekend at Women Honoring Women to be hosted at Capitol Grill, Paramus. And our other two honorees are none other than the Lieutenant Governor for the great state of New Jersey, the Honorable Tahisha Way, and joined by Dr. Danielle Robinson. So we are excited. We look forward to you joining us on Sunday at the Capitol Grill. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, TWWW2024, eventbrite.com. That's TWWW2024.eventbrite.com. Join us on Sunday at noon at the Capitol Grill in Paramus, and it's always our pleasure to chat with you. We look forward to seeing you soon, and we wish you a wonderful week. Springs are coming, and the days are longer. I love it. I'm Natalie B. McKenzie, your host, and you've been watching Living Life Authentically with yours truly. We wish you enough life to live, enough joy to give, enough love to share. I wish you enough. Good night.